Hi, good afternoon everyone. So I would like to start with two cases actually. I will start from where Bharat sir had left actually earlier. So 2 months back there was a case which was happening in US. A guy was actually driving his Range Rover at midnight after a full night party at Friday and at the speed of around 120, and he was then reaching at 140, and suddenly his clutch, brake, steering stopped and the car was actually running at 140. Nothing could he couldn't do anything actually. He was actually, all of a sudden his entire booze actually went in down. He was thinking that what is happening to my car, whether my car is going to dash somewhere or like that. The brake was not actually working absolutely, and suddenly there was a call which came on his mobile and it said that boss, your car is actually hacked. Now you have to pay 5 billion. Okay, so this guy was already in a big shock and his car was not actually doing anything. So he started thinking that what is exactly happening, whether it is right or wrong. So he challenged him. He said, I don't think so this has happened. You can prove me. So this car, which was at 140, it started actually running at 150, then 160, and then the steering started working. Then he realized that yes, it is correct. Somehow after some time, this guy actually settled for a certain amount and then he was rescued. So we are actually moving to this kind of an age where our cars are getting actually hacked, and those cars are getting hacked for ransom. Okay. So you can imagine that what is going to happen in the future. We have a mobile device which is actually taking care about everything about our operation. We are doing everything with our mobile. Our mobile knows everything about us. So it is very easier to hack or ransom our mobile and put it any kind of a malware and take any kind of a sum from us. So this was a case actually which I read some time back. Then there was actually a biggest case study which actually I personally gone through actually a month back or so. So my organization actually witnessed a ransomware attack, and it was a big attack actually, but it could not actually materialize, it could not succeed. We actually efficiently and effectively actually handled that particular ransomware attack, even it actually get matured in the system. And the density of that particular attack was at a very large scale, and I 100% say that this kind of attacks are very much possible to defend. It is very much possible to keep yourself safe from that kind of an environment. So what we did actually, what was happened is that when actually this particular kind of a ransomware attack started happening, we have a very strong SIEM. We have very strong SIEM which actually gives us a real-time alerts that this is something happening with your system. These are the behaviors, these are the changes which are happening with your systems. So when we started realizing that there is something wrong which is happening in my system, my SIEM started giving me alerts that these are the changes, these are the behavior change. Then we started understanding what is exactly happening with this particular system, with this particular users. And then we started realizing these users are acting very different. They are acting very differently. They are having some certain issues. So we started going into it, and then we realized that these particular systems are actually making connections to foreign entities. Okay. Though there was nothing actually which was happening, though this was very premature stage of this particular attack, but then we started actually isolating the system, and then we are taking different kind of actions, like tightening our antivirus solutions, APT solutions, and so on and so forth. But what was the end result? In a week's time, we identified more than 50 systems which were possibly going to infect with the ransomware. But because of our proactive actions, we actually identified those very effectively and we isolated those systems. Then we realized that this is the biggest thing which is going to happen in the future. So what we did was actually user education. This was the most important thing we actually started doing. And I will say more than a month's time, we actually did a lot of sessions with our users, right from the end user to the top management. We did different kind of education series, what kind of a threat it is, how it is going to impact you, and how it is going to impact the organization. These were some of the things which we did. Now, after that particular case study, what was my own lessons or learnings was that we should be always resilient and resilient if we wanted to actually defend the ransomware. What I mean by resilient is that you should have to have a system which can resilient any kind of a attack which can happen to your network or infrastructure or system, be it a ransomware, be it a malware, be it a bot or any kind of a intrusion. Now if you are resilient, then automatically what will happen that if any kind of attack is happening, automatically your maturity or your system defense is going to become stronger. So it is not going to become mature. Second is that you should have to become vigilant. Vigilant means what? What is happening to your system? क्या हो रहा है मेरे system में? मेरे system में कुछ change हो रहा है क्या? Is some user is actually falling prey to something, or is my network is getting penetrated? Because eventually what is going to happen is that there is some kind of intrusion which is going to happen, or there is some kind of a connection which is going to happen to your systems, or there is some kind of a communication which is going to happen to your system. So you have to be proactively identify whether that particular communication is normal or it is any kind of a suspicious communication is there. So that is something vigilant. So these are the two strategies which I feel that it is going to help us to defend ransomware attack, not only today but in future.
Thank you all. Let me provide some inputs for discussions. This case happened in Mumbai around a year back or so. What we realized is because they were friends, I could get to know, because ransomware cases you don't get to know immediately. So one of my friends, he has a small business, maybe around 20-30 crores, and he was affected by ransomware. So he asked his local IT support person to help me, etc. etc. That person helped me, he could get out of it, he could get the backup, etc. So I just inquired. I said, what did you do, etc. I called the person, and can you guess what must have happened? He was working on a RDVS system which was old time, it's not a big system. There was no apps he was running. He was surprised to know that the local support guy company, they normally employed some engineers. One of the engineers actually introduced an encryption inside his machines, and he asked one of his friends to call up. The company that was helping him find a solution was in itself spreading the malware. It's like you must have seen the virus Chimera in Mission Impossible. Most of the small startups which try to help you in cybersecurity are likely to be spreading malware themselves or ransomware themselves. So one of the things that we started, and then we checked with 2-3 other companies which were supported by their IT support guys. The company itself was not bad because the malik of the IT support company was good. But when they employ people at 10,000 rupees or 20,000 rupees, it is very likely that this happens easily. No police can catch because he doesn't know. It's like inadvertently done. I had strategy in BSc, and I also noticed one more thing. Many people have become lazier day by day. That's human nature. Earlier you would like to go to the bank and do a transaction, the branch manager knew you. So even if you don't have a checkbook, you could still withdraw some money because he knows you personally. Today each one of us thinks it's so convenient to do it on mobile or internet or whatever, and we don't even know our branch managers. Even in a society, people don't know each other, and they talk about security camera, etc. So the guy who earns some 5-10,000 rupees as a security head is the guy who is looking after your security. It's a very bad way. In fact, in our company, we try to see that bring your own devices, BOID. We request people not to go to any site, as Bhunesh mentioned also. We try to keep separate devices for separate things. Similarly, in our network also, we run capital markets in stock exchange. We don't want anyone to enter inside. So it's kept separate. Our websites are kept separate. And our internal working is kept separate. We are on a local VPN, we have our own data center, we become big company, we can manage. Small companies cannot manage. Many people have forgotten the ABC classification. They want to keep everything secure. Another point is, we have got this mentality not only in India but world over. We try and first prosecute the victim. If there was a murder, oh, that man was at the wrong place at the wrong time. Why did he go into that dark alley in the night at 11 o'clock? He would have got himself killed. You go to the airport, they'll frisk you. Out of 1 million passengers, only one could be a terrorist or a potential terrorist. But everyone is suffering. What the potential is that we are risking our freedom because of some threat, actual threat, perceived threat, etc. How do we get out of it? So, like for instance, they talked about, Bridges talked about romance. we are very weak in many places. Today, the government is considered to be more unfriendly than private companies. I don't mind giving data to Google because I believe Google, what they will do to me? क्या कर लेंगे? But if I give data to the government, suppose I break a signal, there will be a challan at home and I will not be able to put on my lights. Everything turning into a smart grid connected to each other. There's a movie in Die Hard also you've seen, or The Enemy of the State. These are actual scenarios. In 1984 when George Orwell wrote, people didn't envisage this will happen. Today every action can be held at ransom. In fact, I'm so worried to write to municipal corporations that there are so many potholes near my society, because if I do that, they might come back and check whether my toilet is unauthorized or not. Like Kapil Sharma ka bhi hua hai. That is a bigger threat in ransomware than the amount of ransomware software threats, I assume. So I'll give you some food for thought, so if anyone wants to start.
Actually, when Amit was talking about the example, I recalled that yesterday I had called from two of my branch managers, Raipur and Lucknow, and they were strongly resisting that why you want to put an endpoint control and why you want to put application control. Application control is where you whitelist the site. So what happens is that only sites which are whitelisted you can visit to them. Rest, everything else is forbidden, right? So I said that what is the problem in that? And they were fighting with my infrastructure. I said that what is the problem? They said that when if you want to use these devices at home, if you want to use these devices outside, it's a big challenge. I said that this is the device which you have received from the organization. So you have to follow the organization policy, right? And this is rigid. I'm not going to bend down that, right? So they try to get through the CEO, they try to get through the chief operating officer. Unfortunately, they surrendered after 4 hours of discussion. And I have put that rule that okay, only X number of devices. If it is a laptop device and if it is a mobile device, we have more challenge. BYOD as Mr. Jadhav was saying that it's much more difficult because you have to buy a product from companies like Samsung, etc. And that costs you X number of dollars per year, which is a bigger challenge. And especially in our business model, when merchant is a small time merchant, some kirana shop guy, it's very difficult to bring in those kind of policies. In fact, that is still under discussion. That if the credentials are stolen, how are we going to handle that, right? So what happens is that talking about governance is very easy, but achieving governance is really challenging, right? And when we talk about controlling, what are the things which we can do? Taking backup, what happens is that most of us do have the habit of dropping everything onto the desktop, right? And the screen which you see, right? And what happens is that, and when people are taking backup, they never take backup of desktop. What happens is that people do take backup of in fact, last 3 years I have become religiously taking the backup. Otherwise, even myself was not taking the backup of the desktop. So what happens is that our current work suffers. And current work suffers means what? The productivity loss. Productivity loss, again, if you look in the organization from the bottom of the pyramid to the top of the pyramid, it's a huge productivity loss. The ransomware an ransomware attack in large organizations, imagine any bank getting attacked using ransomware and then that news coming in public. What will the bank runs on the trust, as Mr. Panchal has mentioned that any bank runs on trust. People will be afraid that if there is a use attack also, will they take out the money, what will happen to my money? So the things which are prescribed, I strongly urge that the people have to start following that, the application control, this thing, what you call as patch and configuration management, as I mentioned earlier. Then there is encryption. Encryption is important thing. People feel that it has got nothing to do in the ransomware, but what happens that when you encrypt your data, why this ransomware stuff is coming in? The only objective is not to extract money. The only objective is to make as much money possible out of that data, right? So what happens is that if they will be able to interpret the data, again the disasters will be much more higher, right? So what happens is that we need to encrypt, we need to also encrypt our critical data, and in fact what happens that we encrypt the passwords, we encrypt the database thing, we apply the use the enterprise version, encrypt certain information, and I see that if somebody says that HR my password, I could not reset my password please, and then that password is sent in the clear text in the mail. It happens in my organization too, and I hope that it will be happening in so many organizations, because people are not that sensitive. I don't know how many companies in the induction program they talk about the cyber security. People feel that there is a cyber security department. People like Amit Godekar, me, and Mr. Katra, they are sitting there and they are going to take care about everything else. No, it is not going to happen that way, right? So that sensitivity has to come inside us. What happens that when we are young, we are not bothered about the high blood pressure or diabetes, things like that. When we cross 30, when we cross 40, when we cross 50, then what happens that slowly we become fully aware, right? And then it's a nirvana situation. So a similar kind of thinking has to come in, and it has to be cultivated in culture. If it is not there in culture, any strategy will die out, right? Irrespective of the prescriptions coming from, people will say that inka to kaam hai security, and they will keep on talking security, right? My operations get impacted. Operation people will also, they will always say that it is going to hamper my productivity. You don't talk about security that much. Mujhe business bhi to chalana. This is what the people, operations people say in the organization.
Just to add, see again, attack may be same, but industry to industry the priorities change. Like he said, banking it's a high priority. If some bank has announced that they have been attacked, their business will come down and their trust will go. So similarly, if you take different industries, the importance of security is very much there, but what it is costing. So that risk management has to be analyzed properly. If it is costing your time and productivity, if it is costing your money, if it is costing more than that, some companies will really badly affected by this kind of things. In case of retail organizations, what we do is, I'm just trying to quote what the industry practices is, we make sure that the awareness is created. Even though we create a lot of awareness to our suppress, the best passwords available by end users is India 123, password on pass 123. This is a fact. So at a top management itself, a top management at a head of the departments maintain a password as India 123 and pass 123. And if you try to secure by making them to write a alphanumeric and with special characters, they say that IT is not supporting us. So that is how it is very easy to create an awareness, or you can enforce a junior employee saying that boss you have to follow this. But it is very difficult to make a top management guy understand the importance of this. Mainly coming to the privileges. A company will provide a mobile, company will provide an iPad, company will provide a laptop, and they want everything everywhere. And people are not ready to accept the fact that if a USB is blocked, it's a showstopper to them. They say without USB I can't work, I need a USB. So this only can be changed by creating awareness and showing the